Join me. Together we can rule the galaxy far from sun.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
Hello there, Space Wizards, Plastic Spacemen, and Rebel Princesses. This is Todd Hoffman and Trent Hoffman. You're listening to Big T and Little T, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 142. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 23 of Mandalorian Season 3. Unfortunately, my little buddy Trent can't join me today, but you can catch us out on Twitch, twitch.tv/Big T Little T, and you can catch Trent and I having a little fun playing some Fortnite. We're currently doing Fortnite Chapter 4, Season 2, Fortnite Mega. A lot of fun. We're doing a lot of great stuff on there and having a great time, so check us out there. Hey man, without any further ado, let's jump right into Chapter 23, The Spies. This one's a big one. Game, it's pretty much my favorite episode so far in season 3. Stakes were high. This really delivered. We actually had a runtime of, I think this was like close to 50 minutes or so. It was fantastic. So the official description is saying survivors coming out of hiding. So I believe this is also, I believe this aired, this is one of the episodes that they shared at April on Celebration London. So I believe this dropped April 7th there. This one dropped April 12th on the old Diz Plus, and it's directed by Rick. I always butcher his name. Famuyiwa? I don't know. Rick. We're just going to call it Uncle Rick. He's the executive producer. This is written by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. And the official description of this episode is called Survivors Coming Out of Hiding. This was super cool. We got Kane again. This is our converted New Republic recruit that did the old mind flare on Dr. Pershing. She's in the Coruscant underbelly. Again, Coruscant Blade Runner. It's got the whole Blade Runner vibes. This is perfect. She ducking around some corners, making sure she's sneaky. And she is talking to a Viper probe droid. Yep, a big old probe droid. This looks fantastic. And we got the old holoprojector of Moff Gideon. And so Kane is kind of giving reports about the pirate activity in Navarro, and that Bo-Katan's there, and Din and his covert are working together, and Gideon's like, what? They're sworn enemies. And so Gideon basically says, tell her to continue her mission while he deals with the Mandalorians. Okay, so we go right into the Shadow Council, which is another deep cut in Star Wars lore, but we have Gideon and a bunch of other people. We got Hux, we got Paleon, we got Thrawn dropping around, and then we got a name drop of Project Necromancer. If you know what I'm thinking, that's old Papa P on ice there. So, So we have Gideon kind of talking about, hey, where's Thrawn at? What are we doing? What should we do here? Hux kind of comes out and says Project Necromancer's in place. About Gideon, he asks Gideon about Dr. Pershing and his research that he promised the Shadow Council. And he says basically Gideon reports that Pershing was captured, and his research was lost. which we know that's not true. So again, Gideon's not showing his full hand because he has things going on there. So we know that's happening. And so Gideon's request is like, hey, I need more resources. I need 3 Batarian guards, and I need some TIE bombers and TIE interceptors, which is interesting. He's like, I need the bombers again to deal with the Mandalorians. So it seems like that could have been Gideon trying to take out Bo earlier in the couple chapters ago with her little hideout. So, yeah, and then they kind of end it with Long Live the Empire. So we got the Shadow Council, we got a Thrawn dropped, we got a Necromancer project, we got Hux, we got Paleon, we got Moff Gideon. As Gideon's walking through some, like, I don't know what you would call them, some Naboo like force field stuff. We get to see the new troopers for a second, and we'll touch on that in just a minute because, oh yeah, So anyways, we got Gideon's former light cruiser is now kind of part of the Mandalorian thing. It's got the big old mythosaur on the bottom of it, and so we have the Gauntlet starfighters coming in, and then you got old Grogu sitting on Bo-Katan's lap, and we got everybody coming in for Navarro as the fleet kind of comes in. People are obviously scared because they see a light cruiser, but it is part of the Mandalorians. We have the armor greeting the new recruits. We kind of have like this little stalemate in a sense, but everyone is good. Karga arrives and is really impressed by the fleet, and then Djarin, he gives a bottle of, I think it's tequila, but it's supposed to be wine from Coruscant to celebrate, but it's this cool kind of little bottle that is like a regular bottle here. I think it's tequila, I'm not sure, but yeah. Anyways, he's like, hey, this is coming from Coruscant to celebrate. So later, Djarin comes back to Karga's place, and we have Grogu. It's IG-11's refurbished kind of body, but it's now called IG-12. And Zillion Droidsmith basically stripped all the memory circuits, and now we have like a little caddy for Grogu. And yes, Grogu now has a vocalizer, and he's like, yes, 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 yes. And now we have Grogu going around and trying to get some food and squeezing fruit on merchants, and the whole deal. But basically now we have Grogu hanging out in there. Now I didn't catch this on the first watch, but on subsequent watches, we have the dinner, we have this feast. It's pointed out that these might be the 3 birds that that they captured, and now they're feasting on them. Which, hey, you gotta put what you need on the table. But one of the things that was pointed out to me was very Last Supper-ish, where we have kind of Bo at the head of the table, and we have the 2 sides going at it, and essentially she's asking for volunteers because they have to reclaim Mandalore, and that includes the Great Forge of Mandalore, which I thought was kind of cool. So that's what's happening here. And so but yeah, it's a little biblical in a sense with the Last Supper. And so we have Koska, which is Shyla Banks, Axe Wolves, Vizsla, Armor, and a couple other volunteers, no names, but basically random mandos, as you like to call them. And so Now they travel to Mandalore to essentially retake Mandalore. Makes sense, right? So they get on the surface, and again, it's all glass because of the amount of heat that was used in the bombing, all that kind of fun stuff. Um, but they run into yeah, so they're kind of just they're running into what's I think what happens is does another Mandalorian, yeah, so now these other Mandalorians show up in this kind of big skiff looking thing, uh and they have this kind of little standoff, and they just say, hey, are are you cool? Are you Mandos? Yes, we're Mandos. They kind of ask like if that's insignia on the Night Owls, uh and basically yeah, they're just saying, hey, Bo-Katan has the dark saber, and then they kind of reform their loyalty to them. So the Mandalore is explaining that the Empire destroyed every ship leaving Mandalore and twice bombarded the Mandalore's surface. We find out a little bit more history about the Night of a Thousand Tears. That during this part, Bo does meet with Moff Gideon after to essentially establish a ceasefire, but then she said, okay, if we disarm, everything will be good. But Gideon went back on it, took the dark saber as well, and basically did the Great Purge of Mandalore. Boo, hiss, so we find out a little bit more about that. Din reestablishes his loyalty to Bo and just says, hey, our songs haven't been written yet. I'm going to serve you too. And Armor snaps back about the Death Watch. Aren't you Death Watch? And it's like, that is no more, and we need to, again, we have to be united, which is very interesting. So, they basically, everything is aligned, yeah, and they're ready to go. So they take the night off, boom. And so there's a couple Mandalorian that are on the skiff that are too weak to continue, and this is the only part that really is kind of interesting to me. That how can I put it? The armor they're going to the Great Forge of Mandalore, and they're trying to restart it up, and the armor is like, yo, I'm just gonna take these guys back. It doesn't make sense. And I even said to Trent, I'm like, why is she doing that? It doesn't make any sense, because like she's the armor. She needs that. She knows about the Great Forge. She knows that she wants to check it out, see what needs to happen. And Bo's like, yeah, sure, just go back with the wounded. Like, anyone else could have done that, It's just like, it just doesn't add up. And so, as the kids say, that's a little sus. It just doesn't add up. Like, that's your bread and butter, and you just like, nah, I'm good. I don't have to go see this Great Forge or whatever. So Armor takes everybody back, and at this point too, I'm thinking, the Moff Gideon's fleet's there. They're already engaged in a fleet or whatever. As they're going to the Great Forge, Wolves and Vizsla are playing like a little chess kind of game. And then they have this fight, and they have a little fight, and no one intervenes, except our boy Grogu breaks up the fight and says, no. And Bo's like, hey, he's learned something from you. And Din's like, he didn't learn that from me. So there's like a little subtle nod between Grogu and Din was kind of cool. So they got everybody kind of back. Armor takes everybody back to the command center. Boom, boom, boom. Get medical treatment. So now they are. This is literally my only complaint of this episode. Is like there's this large dragon-like turtle alligator monster, not the same one from the ceremony a couple weeks ago, not the mythosaur, but another kind of creature. I don't know. It's just like, go mythosaur or bust here at this point. I'm sick of seeing snappy turtles and alligators, and we only got to see like a little eyeball of mythosaur. Come on, let's get the mythosaur, guys. I'm just so. Anyways, they have to abandon the skiff as this dragon thing takes them out, and they go into the subterranean. Like they're going to Mordor or something, they're like, okay, we gotta go. They got the whole gang together, everyone's safe, and now they go down as they go in these tunnels. Here we go, they're going and going, and so Grogu's still in IG-12, which is cool. Yeah, they just basically there's a little discussion between Reeves saying that, again, that she used to live here. And so one of the survivors guys like, Goof never left a group but survived by migratory to service while the war ended, and some tried to explore the underground levels but never emerged. So underground bad, surface okay, we got this. But then it's a trap. These super duper Imperial armored commandos come. This is Moff Gideon's thing. They have jetpacks and some form of Beskar armor, and they pin down the Mandalorians. Now, can we just stop for a little bit and talk about these super troopers? Like if you know any history about Boba Fett started out as a white stormtrooper, and he was going to be the leader of this elite group of super commandos. That's how Boba Fett originally started. Like he was going to lead these kind of alpha kind of commandos, and we have Ralph McQuarrie sketch. We have this kind of Ben Burt interview with Boba Fett, kind of explaining his armor and stuff like that, and he's all donned in white, and he looks amazing. But after understanding how much it took to put together Boba Fett, George decided to just it's like, yeah, we're just gonna stick to Boba Fett. And so the whole paint scheme and everything like that, and the whole story of Boba Fett kind of changed at that point, because it's like, yeah, we can't have this super duper commando thing. But the original design was very Boba Fett and Mandalorian-esque, with the T-visor, the whole thing. That's where the T-visor started. And again, we get to see that, with the clone troopers, and obviously with all the Mandalorian. But that original kind of white super commando was way back in history. And so this is a deep cut from Ralph McQuarrie again, and now we get to see him in live action, and it's just so good. So good. I was just like blown away, no pun intended. But yeah, the design's great, it looks great. I want to build this super duper Imperial Commando thing. It looks fantastic. And so now they're pinned, and they get into a spot. And here's the other weird thing. They kind of enter the caverns of Mandalore and blah, blah, blah. And now they get into actually like an Imperial base. So you're telling me these people that have been on Mandalore ever since have never noticed that there's a base being built into one of their cities? I'm sorry. These guys, the on-worlders or whatever, they totally knew that the Imperial was there. So this is my other kind of sus thing. It's like, what happened here? You just tell me just these, you didn't see an Imperial set up their stuff. I don't know. It just seems weird. So you have that going on. So anyways, they get in this pickle, and now Gideon arrives in this kind of dark trooper kind of suit, and he basically explains that he's going to exploit the planet resources to build the next generation of his dark troopers. He's going to use elements of the Jedi, Mandalorians, clones to create a new army to restore order to the galaxy. And Din gets captured. Then Bo uses the Darksaber to get a backdoor exit open for the Mandalorians to escape. Paz Visual says, yo, I got the bag. I got your 6. And he just lays out so many of these cool super duper commandos. And then the Patarian guards show up and just annihilate poor Vizsla. Paz, we love you. You died a hero's death. It was amazing. It was so cool. He was just taking it. It was cool seeing the Batarian guards again. But now we have Din captured. Paz is dead. And now the Mandos are on the run. So and that's basically Paz's death is how we end this episode. Again, this episode is so good. There's so many different things that they introduce without getting too crazy. But for me, it's just the introduction of the super duper troopers that are just, it's so good. I really enjoyed this so much. I was very sad to see Paz die. I don't like that at all. But it's good. It's really hard to say where this is going. I feel like this season's kind of been a little all over the place. Some episodes hitting and some not. So I'm just really interested to see what it means that Din's captured. Is he going to leverage Din to get to Grogu? Is the armorer a spy? So hard to tell. I mean, there's Gideon's helmet has horns that are similar to the armor. It is also very similar to Garg Saxon, all that kind of stuff. Even that little faction of Mando and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on there. We still have the Inside New Republic informant as well. There's so many things. We know Gideon is not showing his hand to the Shadow Council. We got this Project Necromancer. Like, I'm trying to figure out what is the gut punch, or is it going to be something super cool that's going to happen, aka like a Luke Skywalker showing up. Oof, it's so hard to tell. But I mean, it's just, I'm trying to understand like what it's going to be. Is Din going to get his mind wipe? Is Grogu going to get captured too? It's so hard to tell. Is the armor going to betray everybody? It just seems convenient that you get all the troops back together. They get kind of armor leaves, and then they all get captured in one spot, letting like Moff have his like way. Like, hey, they're all conveniently here. Great. So, what are your predictions? That's what we want to hear. So definitely drop us a line at bigtliltpodcast@gmail.com to give us what you think. There you go. All right. So thanks again, Space Wizards, Plastic Spacemen, and Rebel Princesses for listening to another episode of Big T and Little T, a Star Wars podcast. You can find us on the socials. Big T, Little T Podcast, Instagram, BLILT Podcast, Twitter, and then twitch.tv/Big T Little T on the old Twitch. Again, we got stickers. We want to hear from you. So please comment, tweet, rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Show us that rating by emailing us at bigtliltpodcast@gmail.com. We love to drop that review on the air next time. Or if you have a question or you have feelings about where this is going, definitely drop us a line. Love to read it on our next episode. Hey, next week, the season finale of Mandalorian, Chapter 24. And we got some special guests lined up, so you don't want to miss that. We'll be talking a lot of Mando and probably a little Bad Batch along the way. But tune in next week for that. All right. Now remember, truly wonderful the mind of the child is. And may the force be with you always. Bye. See you later. Bye, 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 bye.